Rank your items that you could have from the comic books we've had so far. You can have the Death-Ray, the Electropenilator.
Absolutely. I don't think there's a good one besides the fucking Death-Ray. Well, maybe it's a civilian justice's fucking terrorist impaling flag.
His jacket. Have his jacket.
Oh, honestly, you know what? I had this is probably the most, like, nerdy fucking take of the Super Bowl. But this is actually kind of connected to fucking Death-Ray. So Death-Ray by Clowes, right? And published by Fantagraphics, which is now a Seattle company, but Daniel Clowes lives in the Bay. And Seattle won the Super Bowl in the Bay. And that is the only thing that I got from the Super Bowl besides fucking shout out Benito. But that's that was like that was what was going through my head the entire time. I was like, oh wow, this is Seattle, this is where Fantagraphics is stationed. And then also Daniel Clowes lives in fucking the Bay.
Damn, comic book guy tries to watch a Super Bowl.
I don't know if we could play it. Like, as a fucking California person, I don't know if I can claim Daniel Clowes because he's a Chicago guy.
I wanted to ask, like, happy? Like,
honestly, yeah, he seems like a fucking chill guy. Like, that's the thing. Okay. He's another guy. We'll talk about it now too. But like, this whole like world of like this side of like the comic shit, like now I guess it's kind of seen as the more like I'm hesitant to say it's like pretentious,
yeah.
But like it is the like quote unquote literary comic side of things. Like, these are like the people that don't read comics, maybe you'll like read something from these guys, you know, they're like well respected as like they use a term like graphic novel, but then you like listen to people like Daniel Clowes and he pushes back on the whole like graphic novel thing because
he doesn't like it.
Yeah, because he's like, oh no, they're also a lot of them were serialized, like this one in 8-Ball. So like a lot of them are serialized, and like the whole graphic novel thing is just like that's more of like a marketing publishing thing that they're just trying to push to like make it like see comics as like a mature art form.
Like, listen, fucking dorks, like you're into comic books.
Yeah, like, you can say and like that's the thing. I mean, don't even get me started on like cartooning. Like these guys are cartoonists, and like that's the thing. Yeah. Like for Clowes and like a lot of the Fantagraphics things, I think this is like. I guess this is a good segue into our thing, but like a lot of these guys it's like auteur shit. Basically, they write it, draw it, you know. I mean, we saw somebody like McKeever, right? But he also did like work for hire work, you know what I mean? And like a lot of these guys, or like, you know, like Kirkman, he's an indie guy, but he's just a writer. He's not like an all around dude. Like he may have done some art back in the day, but like now these guys are like the auteur guys. So, do we want to start?
Yes. Welcome to Tales from the Gutters, a comic book podcast where two completely normal guys talk about weird comics, the weird people that make them, and listen to music all together. What are we? I'm Isaac, by the way.
I am Ethan, and I like to smoke cigarettes so that I can have superpowers.
I like cigarettes, and I don't get superpower. I got nothing to show for it.
So like for February, we're kind of kicking off 50 years of Fantagraphics, which is this episode. I didn't even know where to start with fucking Fantagraphics. It's one of those things where like. There's so much history and there's so much about it that it's kind of like hard to like know where to start. But I think that's why, like, because we talked about doing other like Fantagraphic stuff before and even other Daniel Clowes stuff. But this one I think is a really good intro to that kind of like world because it plays on the superhero thing a little bit. It's also part of an anthology series, but it's also the final issue of this anthology that he was doing, and this is kind of right in the middle of his career and also kind of like in the middle of like Fantagraphics as a whole, because like this is when they like kind of like turned around a little bit too. So Fantagraphics is a publishing company. They are now based in Seattle, but I think they started on the East Coast. But they publish everything from like sex comics to Scrooge McDuck. Fantagraphics is like a staple of comic book publishing now. We've been like circling the whole like alternative indie comic world with stuff like Oink at Kitchen Sink Press, and then which was another contemporary of Fantagraphics in the same world. But I think I want to start this, like most stuff, with, I mean, most comic book history is heavily impacted by the Comics Code. So we talked about like EC Comics, right, and how the Comics Code shut down a lot of the like creative opportunities for people, but in the mainstream. So a lot of people, and like comics are and always will be driven by the spirits of freaks and weirdos. So like artists found a way around the system and established a like independent publishing company, right? We have stuff like Rip Off Press, Last Gasp, Apex, Kitchen Sink, like we talked about, Knockabout in the UK, underground magazines like Zap Comics, Women's Comics, Weirdo, Arcade, Bayou Funnies, Raw, by which was edited, I think curated by Art Spiegelman, who did Mouse. And then so like people like Robert Crumb, right, in the 60s gained a bunch of notoriety for like cynical, sexual, politically incorrect stuff that was like more in the subversive side of like comics, and like created like an arena for them to live, because the whole like underground comics thing is they call them underground comics or alt comics with like an X or any other weird misspelling to tell you that they're like not your daddy's funny books or whatever, right?
You want to know what women's
yeah. But Fantagraphics and its place in comics is born from like this like love of art, like individuality and like personal expression, right? So the whole alt comics thing, I'm curious, like for you, was this like this side of it? Because I feel like most people, like me included, is like you come from like the superhero mainstream thing, and then do you remember what your first like literary or like alternate like
what's man, if I fuck up this title, I'm just gonna say a slur, but it's in the title, so I just have to make sure it's the one where the rule where if women talk,
Bechdel test.
The Bechdel test is from this comic.
Yeah.
Do you remember what that's called? It is, I'm reading off the page here. Dykes to watch out for.
Oh, there we go.
Which is good. It was really good.
Yeah,
it was very
Alison Bechdel.
Very dry, very like goofy, very like counterculture. That was in we've talked about it before, the comic book section of Western Kentucky University. So I was like going back between Batman, Sandman, and then would pick up something like this and be like, what the hell is this? But you can know as soon as you pick up something like this, like you just realize how else, like, you know, comics can be used. Like, it's not quite slice of life. They're very like vignette-y. Yeah, it was great. It was cool. Yeah, not too much action. It's just like just people going on about their lives and making like funny observations.
And that's the thing too. I feel like the whole like different like sides of comics is hard to pinpoint because it is such like a small world kind of comics. Like comics themselves are already kind of like underground. I mean, they're pretty mainstream, but still, like, it's not like movies where like everybody watches. Like, not everybody reads comic books, or if they are, like, they do, a lot of it is mostly just like the big two.
Yeah, if you find even one other person who reads comic books, you're going to end up making a podcast with them. Is how rare
exactly. But I feel like in the, like, because you have like the superhero stuff, but then like in the like, because we talk about like libraries and like finding comics at libraries. I remember like Mouse by Art Spiegelman, which is like him telling the story of like his dad like escaping like the Holocaust and like things like that. Those kind of get like moved into the more like literary works, like classics kinds of things. Like even Watchmen, like my fucking one, my little stepbrother, he had Watchmen on like his high school reading list. They like put it on
must read.
Yeah, but like it's like stuff like that where it like crosses over. He had that, and he had like Mouse on there.
Bunch of high school kids being like, yeah, he does get harder when he's got the owl suit on.
But like stuff like that where there is this like kind of crossover where like, and I think a lot of it is due to like things like Fantagraphics, and it's weird that like this is kind of born from the underground of comics, but it has legitimized the art form so much that it is kind of like the crossover. Because like so all comics are like often seen in kind of opposition to the mainstream superhero thing, but a lot of these guys were like they were in it for the love of the game, right? So I'll talk a little bit about like the origins of Fantagraphics. I'm gonna breeze through some stuff.
Highlight reel.
But Fantagraphics was established by Gary Groth and Michael Catron in 1977, with Kim Thompson joining in 1979 as another publisher. They started, Gary and Mike were doing like zine as like kids, like fanzine, and they end up buying this magazine called the Nostalgia Journal, which was like I forgot what it was, just like old like it's like shopping stuff kind of, but like just like profiles on like old TV or like old like
the Mask, or who's the guy with the red scarf, the Shadow.
Oh, the Shadow.
They've got the Shadow.
Yes.
They've got a crazy old Green
Stuff
Lantern.
like that. But yeah, so they pivot that into the Comics Journal, which still runs to this day, and it's kind of regarded as like the premier trade magazine for comics. This is like Variety, kind of a Hollywood Reporter, kind of like. But and they added even like they did some like superhero stuff later on, just like a lot to keep the lights on, right? They did like Amazing Heroes, like I think they did like something called Fantastic Fanzine at one point, but they really broke through like in the journalism world, and a lot of their stuff can be defined by their like just love of the medium, like from obscure like outsider art. They talk a lot about like Mark Crumb, like fucking Art Spiegelman, all of those guys, to like the Bronze Age like comic hobbyist kind of thing, right? So in '79 they start doing their own comics. Their first one is Jay Disbrow's Flames of Gyro, and they later expanded.
Is that Euro?
Euro?
Looks delicious.
And then they later expand their line with stuff like iconically the Love and Rockets by the Gilbert and Jaime Hernandez, and Peter Baggy's Hate, or Peter Bag's Hate, and Daniel Close's Eightball, which is where our story of today, the Death-Ray, was published. And so Fantagraphics is kind of known for staying strong in its position that comics should be considered fine art. Like Gary Groth is kind of like, I guess, like Roger Ebert-y, you know what I mean? Just in terms of like being like a critic that kind of like broke into like the mainstream of that like culture, right? Because one, he had very strong opinions. Like he was he described himself as a militant advocate for comics as a mature art form, right? And then Kim Thompson, like the other half of like this duo, he had like an insane fluency in like multiple languages and like loved all things international comics, and this like helped to like shed light on a lot of like European stuff, right? And voices from all over the world. Like now Fantagraphics has like manga to like slice of life absurdist cartoons from fucking Sweden and stuff like that, right? And Fantagraphics did a lot of work to legitimize comics as a medium. They like reprint a lot of classics like the Peanuts or the work of Alex Toth. We talked before about the EC stuff. They re-release a lot of EC stuff, and it's not even just like non-superhero stuff. They're coming out with like a new I think this year, of Barry Windsor Smith's art, who did like Life and Death from X-Men and stuff like that. And it kind of like created a canon for like comic history, basically. Like we talked a little bit before about like like making the analogy to movie studios, right? And we were talking a little bit like, oh, is it like A24? It's a little bit mix of like A24 and like the Criterion Collection, where they do a little bit of both. Like if they're reprinting something and it's like a Fantagraphics like release, and it's like, oh, this is like an important work of comic history, right? Because these guys, it's
like Criterion.
Yeah, like the Blu-ray extra features. Like they do these crazy long interviews with creators and stuff like that. They spend time with these dudes and like really treat it like they're like auteurs, right? Because they're like the same way that you would treat like Oscar-winning directors, the way that they treat like a lot of cartoonists and stuff like that. And surprisingly, we talked about how Kitchen Sink ended up going under a little bit before.
Yeah.
But Fantagraphics like stayed in business forever. One of the things they did in the 90s was they had a line called Arrows Comics, which were sex comics.
Hell yeah.
And Gary Groth had a great quote where he says he became a pornographer so that he could remain a publisher. And then I guess somebody asked him like why he chose like porn over doing like a superhero thing, and he was like, well, I like sex, but I don't like superheroes, so we're doing the sex stuff. But even then, they were in their making ends meet era, and they still tried to like hold a high standard. Like, one of the new publishers now, Eric Reynolds, noted that Molly Keeley's autobiographical comics about her time as a dominatrix were like a standard bearer for the line.
Yeah. Also, I think that the crossover between like famous comics and SM influences long history.
And that's we talked a bit before too about like the whole punk like aspect to like comics. Like a lot of this stuff, even Clowes talks about it in interviews too. Like during this time in like the like Clowes comes in late 80s through the 90s, and like during this time comics, like underground comics especially too, were kind of part of this just in like pop culture history, because it's like going back to like R. Crumb and stuff like that. These are like things that like people come back to and like don't really, because like everybody talks about like the movies or like the shows or even like the books that they were reading, but then like comic books I feel like get kind of like forgotten about or like left behind. So we can talk a little bit about like the whole like literary comics thing, right? A lot of the times you'll see books from Fantagraphics or like their Canadian counterpart, Drawn and Quarterly, which I think the Death-Ray was reprinted in 2011 under their line, but like Drawn and Quarterly is kind of like their sister company in Canada, and like a lot of the time they're like more quote literary or mature, as opposed to like the whole cape shit super slop thing from the big two. But like I said before, like their releases are just as diverse as the comic, right, themselves. Like talking again about like the A24 comparison, like A24 released The Brutalist and fucking Y2K in the same fucking year. So like Fantagraphics does everything from like the mumblecore indie stuff that we'll talk about later to like Premiere, like Peanuts, fucking they have the complete Peanuts now of like old like newspaper strips and like cartoons. And like that's the thing too, is like it's less about, I don't know, what they don't do and more about what they are doing and like promoting, which is like classic cartooning. You know what I mean? Like the like honing in on like what are these like auteur creators and like what is their place in like this art form, which has been going on for.
I think Clowes is like a beautiful place to start because he's completely in conversation with all that.
Exactly, and I think that's why he's a good entry point. So let's get into Daniel Clowes a little bit. So reading his biography, you can do it as I go through this, but it's the most like makes sense. Like after reading his comics, especially because like
I'm just skimming and I see the word divorce and I say absolutely,
exactly. Because like we both like went through most of his stuff. Did you read Patience again?
Patience was the most recent one, right?
The second most. Monica's the most recent one.
Patience is the one where he's like he's chasing after that lady.
Time travel one. That was very like sci-fi. Well, I mean.
Yeah.
But that's like his longest one. But so, all right, let me start over.
Yeah.
All right. So few people really break out of comics, especially from this generation, into the mainstream the way that Clowes has. So first, he's born to very like he calls them a very academically inclined family in Chicago. His dad was a engineer, and I think his mom was an academic of some kind, right? They quickly divorced when he was 1, and then he had a really kind of like unorthodox kind of upbringing. He had a stepfather that died in an auto racing accident when he was 3, and then his mom takes over running his auto shop in like the south side of Chicago, which is like a funny like dichotomy of these like or weird juxtaposition of this like very like bookish family and then like managing an auto body shop in like Southside.
Someone dies in a car wreck and then you go back to your car repair job.
And then, so he describes his childhood persona as like your stereotypical like indoor kid, right? He's curious, he's creative, and like habitually contrarian. Like many of his characters, like Clowes was the poster child for like a disaffected weirdo with like a penchant for retro pop culture. Like he talks about he went through like a John Philip Sousa phase, like marching band shit, like back in the day. But Clowes' comic origins he credits to his older brother. So he had an older brother that was 10 years older than him, and who got deep into the whole like scumbag hippie lifestyle, right? Throughout Clowes' childhood, right?
Yeah.
So Clowes has a story about watching his older brother and his stoner friends like just cutting up about Leave It to Beaver while they were like crazy high, and like that experience like turned him off drugs for the rest of his life.
Hell yeah.
And that, oh god, so much of his stuff is just like the fucking straight edge kid in the fucking like a bunch of
close to this weird fucking world that he doesn't understand.
Exactly. And like as is the long tradition of older brothers, he did pass down a few gems. So those being like comics like the EC Horse stuff and like underground stuff like R. Crumb. And then so a lot of the style of Clowes' work calls back to like the classic cartooning and like the art from those eras, right? And he says that a lot of his work on a thematic level deals with like the anxiety of like making sense of the chaos of his childhood from like the 60s to the 70s. He graduates from Pratt in New York in the 80s, and then he becomes kind of like a breakout voice in like the underground comic scene with people like Chris Ware and Peter Bagg. And he credits a lot of his like influence, especially with the series 8-Ball, to Harvey Kurtzman's Mad magazine, which is what, and one of his first published works was Ugly Family in like a contemporary of Mad, which is Cracked magazine.
Yeah.
Right? Which became like
Crack.com.
Yeah, because Crack.com, which is wild. But from there, he's like given an opportunity to work under Fantagraphics, and he does Lloyd Llewellyn that ran 6 issues from 86 to 87. And this is like the first, like that first timeline I want you to keep in mind, because like this is 8-Ball runs 23 issues over almost like 15 years.
Oh, interesting.
Right? Because it's like 1989 he pitches his own like anthology series inspired by Mad, right? Which is 8-Ball, and that comes out in 89. This last issue, The Death-Ray, comes out 2004. So, but part of that is because it's just him doing everything. So let's talk about 8-Ball a little bit. So this is an anthology. The first 18 issues are a straight anthology where it's like 2 to 3 page stories, sometimes a little bit longer, different like shorts that are kind of serialized throughout the anthology, and this is all him doing it. And a lot of this, the reason it takes so long is because it's only him. It's him doing the lettering, the coloring, writing it, drawing it, and all of this stuff is just him throwing everything at the wall. So he calls it like the tagline is that it's an orgy of spite, vengeance, hopelessness, despair, and sexual perversion.
It's like if someone had done like guest written one comic of Mad magazine, and you could tell that they just like were working out all their issues on the page. It's that, but then 28 issues of it just again and again.
And I think this one, we'll talk about it more too once we get to Death-Ray, but there's like a cynicism and like an anger that's so present in a lot of his early work, and then like later on, even something as like Ghost World, which was like the big breakout that probably most people will know from the movie with Scarlett Johansson, Steve Buscemi. I rewatched that recently for this too, and I said still stands up. Still holds up. But like, what were some of the standout stories for you?
I think I read the first 6 the whole way through. And all the side stuff, I'll talk about that later. But I did just get like the hook of what is it? Like a velvet
cast in iron. Yeah.
All of his long stuff, kind of like tonally is very that. Like I feel like he's figuring out like how he likes to make a comic book. Those long ones, it's spread out over I think like 12 or 10 or something. if you just read that one and then you also read his other long stuff, you'll be like, okay, this is this guy's vibe. He always sticks to it. Different subject matter, but like this is the tone. Reading the rest of Eightball, he has a ton of variety.
Oh yeah,
he's super fucking playful in a lot of it in a way that he's not in the long ones. There's the I Probably Hate You.
Oh yeah,
sketch.
I hate you deeply, I love you tenderly one, and that's like a Lloyd Llewellyn.
What is it's
callback,
the one where he's talking about just why he hates everybody.
Yeah.
And that was a ton of fun, and it's very fucking self-aware. He's putting himself. He puts himself in the shoes.
Yeah, there's so many of like the artist insert things.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He likes to do that. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about like the tone of like the thing. So like, what would you say are like some of the hallmarks?
Has a divorce. Like, I think the big core of the whole thing is it's usually a younger person. As he gets older, he starts to have more middle-aged characters. They have a hole in the middle of their heart because of usually just like normal childhood, like death in the family, divorced parents, dead parents. Like they have something in them, and then they really need to get it fixed, and they completely ignore it, and they take out the compulsion to fill that hole inside of them on obsessions.
Yeah.
Those obsessions are usually connected to like a conspiracy or an unhealthy dynamic.
Yeah.
You can, as a reader, you see like what's propelling them.
Yeah.
And you're always inside their head. He usually does eye from the sky types, or not eye in the sky, it's subjective. You see the way they view the world, and usually just the amount of like self-loathing that they have.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. Self-loathing, sad sack. But also like from that, like the whole like I hate everything, cynicism, everybody else sucks and is stupid, but I also hate myself thing. You know what I mean? And you see him grow out from that. But that also is very just that like late 80s, it's like post-punk, like fucking irony kind of shit, or like just like being a hater to be a hater kind of thing.
But he's outside of it. It's the same thing as like what you're talking about, like he got a bad feeling about the hippies, right? So he's that in all of his stuff, he's very like show don't tell. So there's a dichotomy of the way that the people see themselves, the way that they interact with other people, like in conversations they're usually a little friendlier, and they like hide what they actually think about people. So you get like, you get grounded, nuanced characters, and then also their actions make you feel sorry for them. You only ever see it from inside their mind, but you outside as a reader they usually tend to like spiral more and more, and like the experience of like watching them go down the rabbit hole. He's very outside of it. He's very ironic, and all of his characters hate everyone around them, but he doesn't like it. He very much doesn't think that's a good way to live.
Exactly. And I think a lot of his work too, especially like something like Ghost World and like this, are critical of that like mindset. It's kind of like deconstructing that.
Ghost World's like a toned down, like they've still got their whole lives ahead of them, like they're figuring out this stuff when they're young.
And it's that coming of age thing of being like, oh, maybe I don't have to be a dick to like be a grown up. You know what I mean?
Patience, I think, is the most. God, it's so hard ranking. And we will eventually rank Eightball in this. Ranking all of his comics, Death-Ray. Ranking his comics on how sad you feel for the protagonist. It's very it's a toss up.
Oh, I do want to also talk a little bit about like something like the surrealism. Like the formal things that he does, because especially with Eightball, you could tell he's throwing everything at the wall in terms of like form. Right. Like he does like even, and I think that's why the Death-Ray is a great example. We'll call it out as it comes, but like influence from like even stuff like Peanuts, or like like or like noir shit, and like just his art too is all over the place in the best way. Like he's an amazing artist, super clean like retro style, but and then he also has like he'll introduce like surreal elements, like we talked about, like a Velvet Glove, Cast in Iron, that gets compared to Lynch stuff a lot.
Very
and like another like common theme with that is like kind of like the subversion of like Americana. You know what I mean? Like the whole like Americana kind of vibes is is definitely kind of like deconstructive. If it's not like satirized, it's kind of like turned upside down in kind of a weird way.
Using like the retro comic book superhero influences. Every couple comic that'll be like a motif, like not quite tied to Americana, but tied, I don't know, like Golden Age stuff.
Exactly.
One of the characters in I forget which, or Bad David, Pathetic David.
Oh, David Boring.
David Boring. Yeah. David Boring. His only connection to his father is like a comic book that's like ripped into pieces that was like never published, and it's like some like Green Lantern knockoff. He doesn't use it in every single comic, but I feel like his relationship to the classic comics that he's like constantly using as an influence, he also uses them as a theme every now and then, especially in the one we'll talk about today. Yeah,
so let's talk about it. Death-Ray, the Death-Ray is issue number 23 of 8-Ball. This came out in 2004. Right before that, the last issue of 8-Ball he did was Ice Haven, which was kind of like a collection montage, like different kind of vignettes like tied together in issue 22 of 8-Ball. Everything issues 1 through 18 were regular like comic book sized, and then you get to 19, 20, and 21, which are David Boring, Ice Haven at 22, and then Death-Ray issue 23. They're all like the oversized like magazine print, which I think is really cool. I like that, and it kind of calls back to like the Mad Magazine thing and like the whole like the like zine culture and stuff like that, which by like 2004 is already kind of dead. But like that whole like DIY kind of vibe that comes from like a lot of like the zeitgeist of that like Gen X like counterculture vibe.
I feel like he finds his voice with that stuff over the chorus of 8-Ball. He over the length of 8-Ball, he finds his voice there, and then he ends it out with what he would not like us to call a graphic novel, and then from there he just makes graphic novels. They're all great, but like you do miss some of the other stuff. We didn't even talk about like Pussy.
Oh yeah, we could like I guess quick shout out to some of the other like 8-Ball stories. I love, one of my favorites is Devil Doll, which is in the first issue. It's like a send up of like a chick tract where there's a girl,
right,
like little girl, the cute little girl that goes to Catholic school, and then she finds out about like the devil from D&D and heavy metal, and then she gets like a upside down cross on her, like tattooed on her forehead, and then she finds a chick tract, or somebody gives her a chick tract, and then that converts her back to fucking to fucking Christianity. So good. And then we talked a lot about like fucking McKeever, and what was his Pencilhead. Clowes does his own kind of like takedown of like the comic book industry.
A lot more surreal and a lot more like
classic
Lynchian. But also
and a lot more like classic stuff. He has like the fucking Stan Lee stand-in kind of guy. And then also we talked a little bit, but the I Hate You Deeply and then the I Love You Tenderly, the two stories. Like I think they're in like concurrent issues of 8-Ball, but it's like Lloyd Llewellyn just monologuing about like all the things that he hates about people. And then the I Love You Tenderly is just like this sarcastic like response to that, where he's just like, people keep saying all I do is hate stuff. Well, I actually like things too. Which and like that's the thing. Like I think Clowes' stuff is funny. Like I really do. He has a really good sense of humor. But it does feel very kind of the time. You know what I mean? Like of like this like it has a very Gen X kind of like bent to it that like really comes through in a lot of his stuff.
Very detached, ironic. That had it so good. You had it all. Well, I guess that'd be the final word on that. Is just you miss some of the little goofy asides and stuff like that. He can do that really well, and it's really fun to get in his head. But he also just crafts fucking phenomenal long form comic book. So
and I think
he could have gone
character work too, like the characters that he like comes up with and are like throughout the books, even in like stuff like Ghost World. Like it like I think that's one of the first. I think I'll keep bringing that up a lot because that's probably the thing that people will know him from the most. But like, there's like a lot of like dynamics and stuff that he plays with like constantly throughout his stuff. So yeah, let's get into it. So this is issue number 23 of 8-Ball, The Death-Ray. Let's talk about the cover a little bit.
Let's talk about the cover. This comic is deserving of all kinds of awards, none more than most misleading cover.
Yes.
Ethan, why don't you describe?
So one thing I do really gotta fucking call out is I do really like the 8-Ball like font that it uses. It changes a little bit throughout like different things, but very cool, very like retro, kind of like 70s, 80s vibe. This bowling alley font. I feel like
or Zoom, Zoom.
Oh, yeah,
It looks like Zoom.
But so the Death-Ray, all black cover, one single character, and it is a very lanky Spider-Man
Captain Kirk, Spider-Man, Sailor.
It's got a lot of that, like very Star Trek-y almost, like in the, because it's pajamas, basically pajamas, blue pajamas, red gloves, red mask. It's pretty much like a fucking like kid Spider-Man Halloween costume without the webbing,
or like one of those like year one comics where he's like still finding it.
Exactly. And then he's got the Death-Ray, this
big fucking yellow gun.
Yeah, it looks like some fucking Dr. Seuss shit, honestly, because
Doctor Who, Dr. Seuss like combination.
Very much. But I do love, like, just like off of this, like, you get all of the influences. Like, you see where this is going. Like, especially if you had read Clowes before and then you look at this, it is just like, he's like calling back to like 70s, like Silver Bronze Age comic book stuff. And it's just, and I don't know why, but one of my favorite parts of this costume is the fucking V-neck with like with the striped shirt underneath, which seems so out of place, but like as a design, I think it works really well.
And then behind it, pure black background,
pure
like
black
just him in the forefront. That's it. Very cool.
So good.
The costume we just described, it does exist in the comic. There is a big, funky looking Death-Ray, but if you were buying this because you liked 70s sci-fi, that would be like accidentally taking the kids to see the boy in the striped pajamas because you couldn't get tickets for Horton Hears It. This shit is sad. First panel. Andy, 2024.
2004.
2000. Jeez. Fucking Christ. 2004. Right off the bat, it's like a classic, what is that, 4x3 page setup. There's things that he did in previous issues of 8-Ball, and he's using the same style. If you had followed it the whole way through, you would understand it as like kind of a continuation. At least in like the structure, sometimes like the little cutaways and things like that.
Because this thing too, let's talk about the art in general a little bit, because it goes back and forth a lot, but like his art style, it's very clean. I feel like this is like something if you saw it, you would know it. Like it evokes a lot of like the old like classic cartooning stuff, and like by that I mean like strips, like
Tintin. There's no shading. It's just color and then ink blots to show where the shadows are.
And it's like there's no like cross hatching. It's just like classic, like very like you could tell he has like a fine art background, because it's just like the straight like pen hatching. And then this scheme too, all of these present day Andy scenes are in this, like it's grayscale kind of, but it's like blue, like a teal scale, which is a thing too. Like in Ghost World, it's like blue, and then this is kind of like a lighter teal thing. But that is I feel like, I don't know if it's because of him, but that like we talked about like a Bechdel test, or like something like, I don't know, like blankets. I'm thinking of too, like things that use this.
Wait, sorry, that's not the name of the comic.
Which one?
The Bechdel test one. What was the name of it?
Oh, Dykes to look out for.
Okay, just checking.
But yeah, this whole like this gray scale with like a single color thing is like, especially this actual like palette, I think has been used in a lot of these like slice of life, very like grounded, like a lot of times like autobiographical like comics. And then the whole like the setup, these like this grid setup is very classic comic strips. Like people talk a lot about the who is it, Wallywood's 22 panels of a comic strip, or the like 6-panel strip thing.
Saturday morning.
Exactly. So that's what's coming through.
Getting into the content, we start the story with Clowes' favorite type of protagonist, slump-shouldered, shabby dudes with a hella negative outlook. Andy is more of the middle-aged variety, probably having a little bit to do with the author maybe getting a little bit older. He's taking his dog for a walk and speaking straight to the reader to give us the bare facts about his life. He's Andy. The dog is Diane. He's had this dog 18 years, and the dog before that for 12. Divorced twice. Also,
not to the dog, to women.
No, yeah. No, the dog he would never divorce. 7 panels in, we find out that Andy is kind of a piece of shit. Ethan, could you let us know what Andy thinks about his ex-wives?
Yeah. He says, neither one of them was worth a damn. Just a couple of whores out to drain a man of his money and vigor.
This is the first thing I read by him through. You gotta, it was an Ethan recommendation. I knew about the thing. I was like, okay. The author doesn't like this guy. I hope. And no, he doesn't. Right. So he says he stays out of trouble. He hasn't smoked in years, besides the occasional relapse, and he literally has one friend. He talks about his dog some more, and just when you think you'd be better off putting down this comic and calling your sad uncle instead, we get a little flash of color, actual color. Andy faces down a litter bug, and they have a bit of a standoff. For 3 panels, he's standing a little straighter, and there's color back in the world. And then the moment's over. Andy is just another misanthropic quadragenarian.
No, you got it the first time.
Damn it. He's got that second one. Preaching at a random guy in the street. He asks him, "You try to make the world a better place. What does it get you? I mean, Christ, how the hell does one man stand against chance against 4 billion assholes?" A question that brings us to the origins of Andy.
And I also want to talk about the color in these ones too. Like, I guess like the main like storyline, it is like the colors that he uses are just so like there's no other way to put it, but it's just so retro. You know what I mean? Like it's that like the 4-color, like we're past like the like 4-color printing thing, but it still uses the like those colors. It's very bright and like saturated.
Yeah, looks like Goodnight Moon house. Yeah, but also when we go into the past, like it is the 70s. So the colors are from the 70s. He's fading the colors, like he's replicating the way that they used to look, but in his contemporary
That's a thing
time,
too. Like with like in Monica, his newest thing, like because he jumps back and forth between like different kind of like vignettes that like tie together in like a full story, and the same thing here, but like in Monica, like he replicated like the page color and like of like the background, like in the gutters and stuff like that, like the yellowed pages and stuff. It's very, very cool.
Making a ton of work to do what like they used to have to. So yeah, we're in the past. The walls are green. Teenage Andy is watching a TV with a whole lot of wood on it. His friend is holding one of those cubes with pictures on each side that I barely remember around when I was a kid. Did you ever have one of those?
I have no idea what this is. I was like, was this a thing? Like
it was a thing in the 70s. You have like a cube and each side is like a different photo.
Okay.
Kind of silly. So I remember like 90s, 6 years old or whatever, and seeing those around, and then they faded out of existence. The friend is Louis. Louis kind of sucks. He's so annoying that I kept wanting to type his name as Louise the entire time that I wrote this. What does he look like?
He looks like, honestly, he looks kind of like a scumbag male version of Velma. Or he looks a little bit like fucking Lucy from fucking Peanuts in a way, just like his hair, his color scheme too.
He's in spirit and in aesthetics, he is halfway between Lucy from Peanuts and Marty Supreme.
Honestly, yes, I see it a lot.
With the fucking pedo. No, I tried to not use pedo stash. I was trying to get the impression across. It just doesn't,
Yeah, he's got the little crust stash, the very pubescent crust stash.
Yes. Yeah. So he's bad news. He's got that. He's got the Lord Farquaad haircut. Second, he's mean as hell to Andy.
Yeah.
He's a very weird kid with behavioral issues that you spend a lot of time with for a year or two when you would just move to a new school. Luckily, that guy's doing well. He has a very successful podcast. So who's cool now?
I feel, and this is like another thing. Like we talk about his relation, like the way that he does characters and stuff. But like this dynamic, the whole like duo thing, where one of them is like kind of a little bit more of a dick. Yeah. And like a little bit more cynical, but the like Andy too, he looks like a real fucking wet blanket. Like he's just a fucking lanky white kid with that like 70s fucking Bob vibe.
Yeah.
But he's also just kind of as angry and cynical on the inside as
progressively more so. You got bad influences
as Louis, and like going back to Ghost World, that's the same thing with like eating coleslaw and Rebecca, I think it's ScarJo's name in the or her character's name in that book.
Also another thing from Ghost World, the dialogue is really fucking good. It's very mumblecore. Ghost World, it's meant to meander, but this one mumblecore, but also we're getting all the important information at the same time. It's really good dialogue.
That's the thing too. Like, so this book is 40 pages, 42 pages long, which is like giant sized, and it's magazine format, so bigger pages. And it's dead. Like, there's a reason I feel like people like put like the literary label on these comics, because you gotta read them. Like you gotta read them a lot. But that is also very like. Old comics used to be so dense, like just in general, like just word wise, it used to be so much.
It doesn't feel boring to get there though. It's easy.
We also find out that Andy has a girlfriend, right?
Yeah. We start to see why Andy becomes the sad sack he's gonna turn into. Louis grills him about his dead parents, ask him if he's fucked his girlfriend. He does have a girlfriend, long distance, letter writing holdover from when he briefly lived with his dad in California. Louis does not have a girlfriend. The next page, that's from Eightball. He does that a lot.
Yes, these it's like the reality TV show Confessional, where like they're like addressing the reader. It's these like interviews. This first one is, "What do you think of Andy?" And it's just a bunch of people like talking over, just like saying like little 1 or 2 line things. One of my favorite ones is just some dude just saying the F slur, which is funny.
Big fucking smile on his face. He looks like he just invented the F slur. And then the consensus is that he's not very well known, and kind of overlooked. People think he's maybe a little bit weird. The next vignette says Louis at home. Louis is eating dinner with his mother, sister, and her boyfriend. Ethan, his mission for the rest of the comic is to interject his boyfriend, because I wrote nothing about him. God. He's kind of important to the plot, actually. This is the first time we see him.
Sunny.
By the end of the section, the boyfriend is so mad he leaves the table. Louis fucking sucks.
Yeah, well, because like Louis is like, they're eating dinner and Louis is just like, man, this tastes like shit, Mom. I fucking hate you. Like, this
Louis, what? All I'm saying is that it tastes like shit.
Yeah. And like her boyfriend is just like, hey man, like you gotta be nice to your mom, dude. Like,
fuck, man. There's something to be said for getting into a relationship as young as possible, so you never end up at a fucking table with someone trying to tell their fucking brother how to act. I don't know. Well, I guess you still may run into that. Who knows? Or maybe wait. All right. So back to title card. Andy's World. The gym class shenanigans. Andy's reedy little arms can't get up past the pull-up bar. A guy named Stoob gets down 27 chin-ups. Louis gets to 28, probably from jerking off. Back in the locker room, Louis tries to be sportsmanlike to Stoob, and you're not going to believe this. The guy named Stoob is actually a little bit of a bully, but only this much? Like, this is as bully as he gets?
Yeah.
And then it's a Cold War type situation where they just turn Stoob into a villain.
Because he ices him, because like, Louis trying to dap him up, and then Stoob is like, Stoob doesn't even say anything mean. He's just like,
He's in a mood,
he just ices him, and then like, fucking Louis, the whole rest of the thing has like a fucking huge beef with this guy.
Yeah, Stoob is like the fucking who's the big guy in Spider-Man thing? The portal guy, the Spot.
Oh, the Spot. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the spy. He's like, you turned me into this. Right. Back in Andy's, we get introduced to Dinah, not to be confused with Diane, his dog. Or is it? Cut to the two of them, the two boys trying to bond over music. Cut to Louis calling Stoob an F-slur through the window.
Yeah.
Stoob is just sitting outside.
He's just honestly, Stoob seems like a chill guy. He's playing on the guitar for his like girl or something like that. Yeah. And like Louis taking a piss in the bathroom, and he just leaves out the window and calls him the F-slur.
So funny. Cut to the delightful duo listening to some music again. Louis says the music makes him want to kill somebody. Youth.
And then we get the next page, right? We see we get a little like one page, right, of Andy's letter that Andy wrote to his girlfriend. And I do want to call out the lettering here, because this is something that he does a lot through like 8-Ball. I don't like, how would you describe it? It's like whimsically serifed font. Like that's what I would say. Like there's just something, and I really like, sometimes it's a little bit hard to read, but it gives that like, I don't know, like 70s retro feel, like, and he does it throughout 8-Ball a lot, but in this he saves it for like Andy's letters to Dusty, his girlfriend, and like some of the dream sequences and stuff too.
Yeah, I don't get into it too much. Every now and then he'll write Dusty, and then we get like a little shot of what Dusty's doing with her life. She's just like a little brace-faced kid, like washing up. Not even. She's just outside watering plants and like singing into the water hose. Like, she seems nice. As it goes on, the letters are sad.
Yeah.
Next, I'm sure nothing bad will happen. I just wrote in big fonts. Next page, we get a spooky looking title. Cigarettes? ? Remember those cigarettes that Andy quit? Much like denizens of retirement homes all throughout Kentucky, we are about to find out those sweet little ciggies are going to have much more of an impact than we initially thought. Of course, it's Louis pressuring Andy into the habit right after a teenagers daring each other roof jumping scene where Andy almost fucking dies.
Dead ass. He literally almost, because he trips on the fucking edge of the roof.
Somehow makes it there. Yeah, Jesus. Oh, anyway, they smoke a bit. They gauge how much the adults are reacting, and Andy pukes a lot. Next, after what at first seems like another example of Louis slowly chipping away at Andy's IQ, this turns out to be the exciting event. Talk a little bit about this. Incredible.
Yeah, so this little I guess like scene, is titled Incredible, and it's very like, it's so Spider-Man coded. Like, this is also this is after the first Spider-Man movie comes out, right? And this is the line work gets a little heavier, it gets a little darker, and like this is really calling back to like classic Spider-Man stuff, like vibe.
A little bit of the detective comics, like noir stuff. It's all just like lit by the deep yellow windows in the background. All that to say, that's his origin story. He wakes up after having smoked that cigarette in a cold sweat, full of energy. He goes out, he rips the Odyssey in half. You know, maybe someday I'll be literary enough to tell you the meaning behind that. Or, you know, maybe Clowes would probably just fucking Marcus, whatever. What did I read in high school? So yeah, he tears a book in half and then he lifts the back of a car for no reason. Just like, he lifts it like 2 feet off the ground. I'm so used to reading comic books that I was just like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. And I was like, that's really fucking hard to lift the back of a car, man. Okay. Sci-fi development could not happen at a better time. today is the day Louis decides he fucking had it with Stu, who it's actually implied is mostly minding his own damn beeswax.
Yeah.
Andy gets his fucking. Oh wait, no, Louis. Louis gets his ass handed to him.
I do want to call out too. Like they're about to fight, and Stu is like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" Like Stu just he's just like, "Well, fuck, bro." Like
Stu's got a good 9 inches on him.
Yeah, he's just like, "Bro, come on, like you don't want to do this, bro." I also do want to call out like in something that Clowes does a lot, and I think it's very intentional, is like using speech bubbles to like cover people up, like especially when it's Andy's monologue. Over people, over the scene, and then you also get like speech bubbles getting cut off in the scene in like panels and things.
Yeah, he gives himself the freedom to like just jump around with where he places the thing, but it's still reading super, super well. There's 2 panels, so I mean that's kind of what he's doing. He's using classic panel structures, but he's giving himself like the freedom of the 21st century to like mess around with that form in a way that's like. You would think that they all look like this. You'd be like, oh, they probably was like that. And it's like, no, he's being innovative. Louis is getting the shit kicked out of him. There's this fun panel where he hits him in the face and his glasses fly off to the left and right to square on.
In half.
Luckily, Andy comes around the corner fucking sweating, smelling like an ashtray. I guess this is in his head. It was like my entire body got a giant boner. We don't see the fight. We just see a fucking Stoob covered in blood, and then like it's the Arthur fist turned up fucking like fucking solidarity fist, but blood dripping from the top. Very cool.
I love like the very 70s principle just coming. I'm like, hey, break it up.
It's the same guy in every comic. He has to jump from comic to comic to break up origin story fights. The next, this is so fucking cool.
Yeah, the origin of the Death-Ray.
Oh, just the way it fucking looks, man. Like
the grid is like 4x6 grid, little perfect squares through over 2 pages, and the title is interspersed between with little like shots, and then you have like what would be kind of, I guess, like caption are like full panels too. And just the layout, the color, it's like you could tell why this, like, I don't know, like I don't want to like shit on mainstream comics, but like you could tell like why it's like, oh yeah, this is something different, you know, like this is something like taking like really taking comic booking seriously.
Taking comic booking serious. Yeah, I think we finally said it. Just a really, really fucking nice palette. Looks really good. This whole section, the origin of Death-Ray. Why did I ask you to read first?
Oh, fuck me, Andy. Yeah, baby.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay, that was it. Just out of nowhere, you hear just like, fuck me, Andy. And we'll get back to that later. This is his origin story. His granddad that he lives with, because he lives with his granddad now because dead parents. Mm-hmm. His granddad is becoming progressively more senile, which is kind of playing why funny talk. He's lucid enough to notice that he started smoking. He pops in with a box. Your father told me to give you this if you ever started smoking. Now we get the basic premise of his powers. He smokes a little backy. He gets strong. He gets sick after. His father doused him with hormonal therapy as a kid so he wouldn't grow up to be as scrawny as him. Clowes doesn't waste any time with the science or magic or anything. We're just in magical realism land. That's all you need to know, especially when it comes to something else that's mentioned in the letter but doesn't make an appearance yet. Chekhov's Death-Ray. Louis is fucking thrilled with the new world that him and Andy have just entered, and of course he's got some ideas about how Andy should use these new found ass-kicking abilities. To be fair, things start out pretty harmless. We go from the grid that we just talked about, super dense, probably takes you about like 4 minutes to read it all, straight to this giant splash page.
Yeah, this 2-page spread with a few like panels like scattered around like the composition, but it's Louis and Andy, right? Just like, it's more Louis Louis thinking about like, oh, what they could do, like a superhero duo, right? And this is there's something because they're on a rooftop, Andy's punching somebody, and fucking Louis in the background tossing him a gun. But it's like this is something. I don't know what it is, but it's a reference to something. Like it feels very iconic.
Kind of Batman Robin-y.
Yeah.
Because Louis has interjected himself into this power fantasy, and he's just in the background in plain clothes catching a gun.
Yeah. It's so funny too because like this is where we first see like the Death-Ray costume, right? Or like their idea of the Death-Ray costume. And then also we see dude, like Louis slowly becoming like kind of like fresher, like he's like
Louis,
like he gets a haircut, he's got like cool like green tinted glasses.
Ethan, if you ever got superpowers, I think I'd start dressing better. I don't know why. I don't know why, but I would. Also, a cool little detail here. So the splash covers the 2-page. It would be beautiful by itself, but it's Louis talking about the world that, I mean, literally Annie doesn't say anything. Yeah, Annie barely says anything for these full 2 pages. It's kind of pushed over top of it, Louis talking about, oh, you could be a superhero now. And then there's one bubble of Louis talking about like, you know, like, oh, how cool you could be. And the bubble covers up the face of the person that he's punching. So like in this fantasy, it doesn't fucking matter who this guy is, you know, like I've got the idea of a plan.
And Louis says here too, like, I mean, this is part of him being like kind of a pretentious dick, but he's like, oh, you don't even really know me, Andy. Like, you never figured me out. Like, I'm a complicated person.
He says that as they go shopping. He gets himself all tan back. That's the fantasy in Louis' head. The next section is called baseball, and I do think we should spend a minute on it because you could skip it and still get the story, but basically it sums up the entire dynamic that is kind of the core of the whole thing here. This little
for sure. And this one is very like it's a little bit more simplified color palette. People don't have skin tones; they're just white. It's very Peanuts-y kind of vibes.
He basically he's good at baseball for the first time because he smoked a little bit. The coach is like, hey, maybe you should like try out for the team or whatever. And then Andy gives like Louis like a little look over his shoulder and then talks to him afterwards. Louis, oh, so what did you say? I told him I had to take care of my sick grandfather. Louis literally says, good boy.
Such a fucking piece of shit. He's such a fucking
asshole.
dick.
So that's how real life looks, and then we get into. I assume this would be the beginning of another. The next issue.
The Adventures of the Death-Ray.
The Adventures of the Death-Ray. They're looking for motherfuckers to beat up. Kind of a couple of misguided, pathetic attempts to be Crime Stoppers. Wallets full of cash left on the ground. Louis tries to annoy people enough to get them to fight him, Fight Club style.
Yeah.
Stands outside a party that only Annie was invited to see if it was a, quote, setup. They end up just fucking with Stoop's car.
Yeah. I do want to say, like, in this, too, there is, like, they're, like, imagining, like, why. Like, Louis asks him, like, who do you hate most in the world? And, like, he doesn't really have an answer, but then, like, he has, like, an Uncle Ben moment.
In his mind,
he has to in his mind, like, he's thinking about like what it would take for him to like, you know, like really like dive into this thing, and then he does like the Uncle Ben thing of like he like imagines grandpa dying.
Louis starts dressing more and more on the nose bad boy cliches, dropping weird violent fantasies into all kind of situations that don't call for it. Speaking of fantasies, we haven't heard from Polly, that's Andy's girlfriend, in a while.
Or Dusty is.
Oh, Dusty. Yeah. Dusty is his girlfriend. And meanwhile, Andy's juvenile mind has begun fixating on the only other stable female influence in his life, the housekeeper.
Yes, he's imagine this middle-aged, like, older black woman who he just imagines fucking, and which is where those, like, again, he does it here where there's, like, speech bubbles getting cut off where she's like talking dirty to him, but that's what was in those like the origin of the Death-Ray panels or whatever. And then also here too, Andy finds out that like, oh, maybe his aunt Delia has like the Death-Ray because like his some of his dad's stuff is at his aunt's house.
So things are begun to get weird, but no real lines have been crossed yet until Andy kicks the shit out of his classmate's dad. The classmate had made the mistake of telling Louis that his dad had hit her.
Mhm.
Her dad had hit her. Louis aims Andy at the dad, and because this is Clowes, it's the most depressing version of the story. They do give him a well-deserved beatdown, but he loses the dog he was walking in the process. The next day, the daughter is pissed and calls Louis an asshole. Louis calls her a lot worse, and things. Calls her a lot worse. And things in this situation go how they often go in this world: unresolved, a little sadder, and things are a little bit more out of control. I think honestly, this is kind of where I start to close it out. I don't want to. I think for this one, go read it. Go read it. It's so dense and it's a vibe. Like you can get the story from what we're saying. I think we're doing it justice. But this one is one that just watching these guys interact over and over again, like it's just a slow train wreck with everyone Andy loves tied to the tracks. Louis cannot keep himself from pushing Andy. He's a frustrated kid who wants to take everything out. He wants to take out everything out in the world. Andy is a deeply lonely kid with no one else to turn to. As things start to escalate, Clowes takes Andy's uncanny power and Louis' reflexive goading a step further with the introduction of the Death-Ray itself. You can talk a little bit about how does the gun work?
Yeah. So throughout like these like scenes after they beat up their classmate's dad, right? Andy gets a hold of his aunt Delia and like begs her to like give him because like I guess his dad had told him not like he couldn't have it till he was 18 or something like that.
Give me the toy gun.
But like he finally gets it from his stepmom. They do a little bit more Andy beating up people, but they have this gun that literally you just point it at anything, and there's like a big like pop onomatopoeia, and it erases it like from it.
Yeah, and of course Andy is the only one who can.
Yeah.
Again, we don't get to that explanation.
Yeah, Louis tries to do it, and it just like breaks, and then fucking Andy accidentally kills a squirrel, and it like keeps him up at night. Another great panel. Like some of these are like punctuated by like these like all yellow panels where it's like a very in shadow, like deep heavy hatching, and then this one too is just Andy laying in bed after he fucking killed this squirrel, and like he has a speech bubble that has nothing in it, that's just cut off. You only get the tail,
and then floating thought bubbles around him, which is it's just using the format. It's like how in a comic book, and I'm using this retro pop style, like how can I give the feeling of someone laying in bed at night and being tortured by the thoughts, and it's so good. It works really well.
Because sometimes we talk about like comics being like cinematic. Sometimes I think a lot of like mainstream superhero comics, especially like I think it started with like the Ultimate Universe type stuff, is like when they started making it look big like movies, but like a lot of Fantagraphics in general and Clowes specifically, he uses comic as comics, and he like everything he does is like intentional to this thing.
Not so much in this one, but I told you before, he's got cute little tricks from someone who's been doing comic books so long, where he references the format of the page, or he references like oh, that last scene that really happened, like kind of like, so he understands like how people read comics, and he's comfortable enough to even like make little jokes about it. It's very cool. So with the introduction of the Death-Ray, we go from a troubled kid who can beat the shit out of anyone to a troubled kid who can instantly get away with murder with a pull of a trigger. Get away with murder being the emphasis. Otherwise, you just have a gun. Of course, Andy promises never to use it, but he is obviously getting more and more desperate for any reason to feel strong or useful. Louis' behavior has cut him off from everyone at the school. His granddad is becoming less and less aware, and seeing his awkward and awful last-ditch effort to reach out to Dinah reaches Scott's Tots levels of cringe. It's pretty bad.
I do want to talk a little bit here too about Sunny.
Oh, the pathetic, the older,
Shayla.
like, oh, bro, what are you, 40? Like, why are you hanging out with these kids?
My Shayla, dude. Sunny is my favorite character in this entire book. And I love, there's something, like, Clowes does this too. I mean, I can't even fucking say, I just was thinking of the movie now about Steve Buscemi's character from Ghost World. But, like, the Sunny is the, ex now boyfriend of Louis' sister. And like, in any other comic, like, you wouldn't do this. Like, why would you do this? Like, who would care about a character like this? But it gives, like, the origin of Sunny. And, fucking, Sunny's just, like, this fucking sad dude who's Louis' sister runs off with some guy that gets her hooked on drugs. And, like, Sunny's very still in love with her. And, like, he sees... And Louis sees him, too, as, like, the only family that he's got, basically. And he even says that. There's a funny exchange here where they're talking about, like, how Sunny's, like, Louis' only family. And he's like, what about your other sister? And he's like, she's a stupid bitch. He's like, she fucking sucks. And then, but, yeah. And then that is one, like, kind of, like, setup, too, that will pay off later, also. The whole, like, lost sister thing.
So as much as I don't want to rob you the opportunity to experience the slow descent yourself, your listener, I won't be able to resist skipping past all the mistakes he won't be able to take back to the end of the comic book, unless if I put the caveat statement that we're gonna skip all the awkward, sad stuff that happens between now and the end. Now's your time if you want to say any particular sad or awkward moment in between now and the end.
There's so many. Andy's dream sequence is really great. Again, he's fucking Dinah. In his mind. Yeah, I really love the fucking Sunny stuff because there's a whole, like, Clowes dedicates half a page to fucking Sunny just being sad and drunk by himself after Louis' sister Teresa has left him. Right, and then she, like, left him a note. There's more, like, them fantasizing about being superheroes.
And this one is just a pure 70s. It's what's the Calvin and Hobbes thing? Bip? What does he call himself?
Yeah,
Zap?
Spaceman
Zip or Zap.
Blip or something. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like that same style. Sunny's lament.
Yes.
Look, okay.
Sunny ends up being this kind of, like, he's a great foil to these guys because he's one extremely sincere.
Yeah.
And he's sad, but he is also, like, kind of optimistic. He wants to do the right thing by, like, Louis and this girl, but he just can't stop being that guy that's just, like, talking, just that older dude that's like gives you rides everywhere, and he's just talking about how sad his life is.
Perpetually upturned eyebrows. So sad.
They keep trying to bait Stoob so that they have a reason to shoot him with the death ray.
Yeah. I mean, things are that's it stays in that holding position for a long time where they get close to, like, no, dude, you're about to fucking eradicate somebody from existence. And then he's in a bush, he almost does it, and then later he's like Louis just like, oh, I got the shit kicked out of me for no reason. So it's just another goofy day for them, but it's like, no, you almost fucking committed murder.
Yeah. And then we get a little thing here too. There's a little, like, obviously Andy's grandpa is, like, slowly, like, he's more and more in decline. He has this moment with Dinah where she talks about how her daughter is, like, on drugs and stuff like that, and then
the expression of the hug.
She gives him a hug. And God, so cringe.
All right, look, we're just skipping it. We're going to the end. Because don't even tell, like, there's really bad things that happen. Go read it. And we won't ruin the experience, but we will ruin it. Yeah. Ending. We arrive on the other side of the bookends with a middle-aged Andy meandering his way through his sad sack life. He talks about the few times he's used his powers since his eventful youth. He's basically a walking recessive hairline with the ability to wipe anyone off the face of the planet whenever he feels like. He talks about how he wish he had found a place where he'd like to live, where people treat each other decent, but he hasn't found it yet. He berates himself, the world, even the reader. He says he's not a sad guy. He loves his dog. However, eagle-eyed readers will spot that his dog's name is Diana, a couple letters off from the name of the housekeeper he had growing up. The whole book, Clowes keeps us in the head of Andy, reassuring himself that he's a good and stable guy. He also makes it very obvious that it's just not the case. You feel for the kid, and at the very end of the journey, you're just bummed out that things.
Yeah, and I do kind of want to cover a little bit of like the things that happen. Obviously, like Andy kills some people.
Andy kills some people.
One of my favorite moments is like we think Stoob like this is probably the worst thing that Stoob does the entire comic. Yeah. But like he fucking Andy's grandpa's in the hospital, and then Stoob says, "I'm really sorry, man. I'm sorry you're such a dick sucking F slur. I hope your father fucking dies," which is brutal. And then, okay, can we talk about this? Like, this is kind of
fine.
Because this plays into like the whole thing. So after that, and he has to go see. This is his aunt, right? And
he's gonna live with his aunt now because his granddad's in the hospital. If we're gonna talk about the final moment, remember?
Oh yeah.
Because Sonny had his girl stolen, Louis' sister, by the drug addict guy. And then that is what? That's his first kill. First kill. He just deletes the guy. He just deletes him going from home one day. Sonny's so fucking happy. Thank you. You saved me. Louis fucking loses his mind. Louis has been fucking pushing Andy this entire fucking time. He wanted him to fucking kill the bully. But when it actually happens, something snaps inside of Louis.
Yeah, and he just gets super freaked out. Also, Andy kisses Dinah out of nowhere, and she gets freaked out, and then just fucking leaves.
I love you, Dinah. Just gone. God. And then he almost fucking death rays his fucking grandpa because he fucked up the caregiver.
Obviously, he just gets more and more unhinged in his letters to Dusty. Right, super sad. Also, Louis has like a moment with his girlfriend. Where he just talks about, he's like, I'm just such a piece of shit. Like, he's so freaked out. Yeah. He's so done.
Also, when he says he's such a piece of shit, he's holding on to her, about to cry, because the guy's already been killed at this point. This is Luke, and he says, dear God, help me to be a better person. Yeah. If you've read the rest of Eightball, you know how this motherfucker feels about, the Christian institution. He's got a lot of really fun little 2-pagers about, like, mega fucking preachers and shit like that. So yeah, that's another hit against Louis. Actually, is his sudden faith in God.
Exactly. He pulled a who the fuck? Who's the guy?
Oh fuck. Who's the guy? He was in Arthur. That was last. Get him to
Russell Brand.
He pulled a Russell Brand. Yeah, in a moment of crisis, he found our Lord.
Yeah. So yeah, Louis is getting like progressively freaked out. Like Stoob fucks with Andy. So Louis like, oh, are you like really gonna do it, right? And then I feel like this is like the climax right here is we're cutting back, like you said, like Andy present day, and now in the present day panels it's like a red hue instead.
Oh yeah, I forgot it jumps back and forth. It's a red hue. We're back in the future. Every couple panels, showing him fighting crime, which is just like standing outside of a bar and beating this guy till he looks like Red Skeleton.
He talks about like all of these other moments that he like used his powers to like fucking kill people or just like beat them up or something like that. And it's always just like the most like just some dude being a dick in a bar kind of, you know,
small things. The tension is so fucking cool because you're going back and forth between him in the present day shopping for groceries, little acts of violence he's done in years. And at the same time, the final confrontation.
Yeah, so they're walking up to the top of this hill, and Louis kind of freaked out about everything. Andy's just super unhinged now. So Louis picks up a fucking rock and he hits Andy over the head.
We don't even see it. It's POV what Andy sees. So you just see Clunk, you see him picking up a rock, you see him holding it above his head.
Mm-hmm. and then you see just the
An empty panel
background where Louis would be standing. There's no pop or anything.
Yeah. Oh shit! Oh shit!
Just the composition of this page by itself. It's like these panels like fall into like the present day him walking through the grocery store.
It's Of Mice and Men and Super Bad Times at the same time.
Yeah,
really fucking depressing.
God. And then we have like Andy just telling us a little bit more like what happened in those years. So the first dog that he has is Louis' dog. Like I guess Louis' mom like doesn't give a fuck.
It's the dog. Somehow he ended up with the dog that came from the guy, the first dad that they beat the shit out of that got away.
No, this is Louis' dog.
I feel like he got it. They had the same name. It had the same name. So somehow,
because he says even his mom never accused me or anything. She gave me the dog.
But that when they beat the shit out of the classmate's dad, he says, "Lucy, come back." And then so somehow Louis ended up with the dog, which is even more fucked up.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, so like he has this dog. He just lives a very like sad sack life. And then one day he like goes back to Stube to get like because he wants the Death-Ray.
Yeah.
No, sorry, not Stube. Sunny.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like honestly, this is why Sunny's my favorite character. Like this is a horrible decision because Andy's a fucking piece of shit too. But like Stube or keep playing Stube. But Sunny's just like, yeah, dude, whatever you need.
Yeah.
And they go because he had sent off the Death-Ray, right? He had sent it back to his aunt or whatever, and they have to like go back and like track it down, right? And then this catches us up to like the present day where Andy's standing in front of the litterer dude.
Excuse me?
Yeah. And his final monologue's really interesting too because he talks about like running into Stube again and like he's like doing like solar energy and how he's like a real solid citizen.
Stube's like, "Oh, sorry for everything that happened."
But then he says fucking he couldn't fool me. Underneath it all, he was still the same guy.
Yeah,
Nobody ever changes.
Andy's fucking broken.
Yeah.
That one's called The United States of Andy. I think that's just like how good of a writer he is. It's not on the nose, but it does make you think about some weird fucking American imperialism metaphor thing where he's just like a sad piece of shit with like very middling objectives that can commit acts of violence and never have any repercussion for it, you know?
Exactly. I mean, this very much falls in line, like, because it's like two parts. Like, it's part like super dark times and like Chronicle or like, and then it's part like fucking American Beauty.
Yeah. It's like Brightburn, but American Beauty.
Yeah, this like sad suburban dark underbelly kind of thing. And the last page I think is really fun. We get "Why did Andy destroy you?" with all of the people that he killed confessionals. It's really interesting too because I think this is all kind of from Andy's perspective because Louis says, "It was my own fault. I'm sorry." And then, what do you think of Andy again? My favorite panel of this one is Dinah saying, "May God find a way into his heart."
Old as hell and very worried looking.
God. And then the last thing too.
Choose
is,
your
like,
own adventure.
We get you get to decide how the story ends, right? A. Andy zaps everyone in the world until he's the only one left.
It's just
B.
Him walking down a street corner by himself.
B. He turns the gun on himself and the world goes on without him. Or C. He continues to live as much as he has for the past 25 years. After Diane dies, he gets a fox terrier named Mickey, and then it just like goes on to like how he could die with the, or he could go through the rest of his life and then probably die from lung cancer. Yeah. Right. And then the last few panels are just him, watching fireworks, right, by a lake with Diane.
Yeah. Talking to the reader who he's already like called a piece of shit. For you, Mr. and Mrs. Decent Citizen, I'll do anything. Just say the word. Watching fireworks. His dog runs off. He's still oh no, he picks up the dog. There we go. He picks up the dog. He's holding it. You've got a friend in old Andy. That is the end of the Death-Ray.
So good. Like this whole thing, it's like I can't believe he told this much story in 40 fucking pages. Like it's honestly impressive. Like And that's what I like about this one too. A lot of his stuff is like his other like graphic novel stuff is like longer, maybe like Monica and like Patience, and some Patience really long, or like even stuff like Wilson. But this one, I feel like it's so tight
and very focused. His other stuff will jump around and it well, but this one is not cinematic in the way that he's telling this. Not in the techniques he uses, but it's like a movie in the fact that like from the beginning to the end, it's about something. It holds your attention the entire time, and so many things that happen. It doesn't hit the same beat. It hits a same beat and changes it a little bit. It's a slow descent type thing. So fun to read and hard to get through. It's so fucking sad.
It's so depressing. Honestly, after this like past couple weeks of like only reading Clowes stuff, it's like that's why it was kind of fun to like go back to like early 8-Ball stuff, because it's angrier, but it's a lot more like fun. Like you don't feel so gross about it, I guess. Like this one just makes you so sad. Like really, honestly. Like it's a very sad book.
Do you want to final thoughts on the Death-Ray?
Yeah, well, I think this is just something that like this plays to all of his strengths. There's like you get the retro kind of like subversion. Like we talk a lot about like how people use the whole superhero thing, right? As like this, I think a lot of like superhero deconstructions are trying to port the superhero mythos into something else. You're looking at something through like a superhero, like you're trying to inject like this dynamic or this like these themes into the superhero thing or analyzing the superhero thing. But this is not about the superhero. This is using the superhero like convention or whatever to tell a very like personal, like introspective story. And like you get all like the hallmarks, right? You get the fucking broken home, like parental death, like parent figures, the weird like duo dynamics, weird sex thing. Obviously, you got to throw that in there. Like this is honestly probably maybe one of his least sexual comics.
Oh yeah.
I would say maybe. You get the retro subversion, playing with the form. Clowes also labels like a lot of his characters as like frightened control freaks. And that like this especially is that like to a T. And a lot of this too, I think, I don't know how much it's conscious or like intentional, but this also plays along, like it does kind of deconstruct, I guess, a lot of the discourse around like especially like early golden silver age comics and like bronze age stuff, like in terms of superheroes, because like the whole, I guess I'll talk a little bit about the whole like moral objectivism thing, because like in like reviews and like talking about this, that's one thing that people point out a lot is the whole like the Spider-Man parallel, of course. And with that, early Spider-Man, Steve Ditko, Stan Lee, right? Ditko was like a staunch like Randian, like he was all about like superheroes as like moral heroes.
Superman
like,
is a super.
Like they have a responsibility and like a right to like dole out absolute justice against absolute evil, right? And for him there was like no gray area. Like criminals, corrupt cops, taggers, here, litterers, all the same. Like they fuck up, like you're done. And like Alan Moore plays on this with like Watchmen, with like Rorschach, who's like the question, or like Steve Ditko had a whole like moral objectivist superhero called Mr. A, and his whole thing was like there's good and bad. You're either one of them.
Judge Dredd,
And I think the like the whole moral objectivism thing gets like a lot of like flack for, it's like rightly criticized for kind of promoting kind of like a selfish entitlement. And I think this character, especially Andy, because like his whole thing is like even until the end he's like, no, I'm a good guy. I'm a good guy. Everybody else is a piece of shit. Just tell me what to do. Like he's just looking for any reason. Like his whole like righteousness or whatever, it's just like a thinly veiled like ego trip. And I think that is one of the like fun things that Clowes does with the superhero thing, is kind of like pick apart, because this plays into the whole theme. Like we talked already a little bit about like Ghost World and like how he started off as like kind of just cynical kind of a hater in his like artistic voice, and like, but then as like things go on, he gets a lot more like introspective about it and more critical of those kinds of people and that kind of like outlook. And I think this does a really good job of like just painting them like the whole like that whole perspective as just, oh, you're just a fucking sad sack.
Where does trying to think, Velvet, like a velvet glove cast in iron, doesn't the protagonist kind of go on his way? Oh no, he dies. He definitely dies. Okay, well then it still kind of works. His earlier things that he did, I don't know. What's the timeline? I'm thinking of David Boring came out
right before this. Yeah, or a little bit before this.
Basically, he's made stories about younger people who die young or kind of like quote unquote like get away with it or whatever. This is like very middle aged. Like he goes through all of this stuff and then you get to see the rest of his life because he made the choices when he was young. And a lot of his other stuff also follows someone for their entire life. It kind of has that like middle-aged, older life effect.
Absolutely. Like we were talking about like Monica.
Yeah, multi-generational. Yeah. You get to watch someone fuck up their life and then you watch their kid fuck up their life.
Oh yeah, Patience. Yeah. Oh yeah, Patience. So much of that stuff. And like there's just something about like Clowes' characters that they're so grounded.
Yeah.
Like everything is so grounded, even in like the more fantastical stuff that he does. And like it's like, I don't know, this is like a really great book. I feel like this is a good like intro like Clowes thing because it has a little bit of everything, you know. It has a little bit of like the surreal, like dreamy stuff, a little sci-fi element, but it's all focused on like the
mostly just a kid kicking cans down the road when he's not about to murder someone.
And I think there are some really funny
moments. It's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think just to add on to that, my final thing, I read this first before anything else by him. I think I had read some stuff but forgotten about it. At the end of this, like just stuck in my head, like we're in like the boys era of like how we superheroes, and that stuff's fucking great. That's awesome. Like I think that's a fun counterbalance. But I think if people had superpowers in real life, like, you know, like absolute fucking like psychopathy and just like being an insane person, like the boys is like they're all just like kind of insane. Like they get powers and they just like lose their fucking mind. I think if people had superpowers, this is the most grounded take I've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
It's very middling. You can get away with murder, so
there's
you
no
do a little
like
bit
big,
of murder.
Yeah, there's no like big epic like thing or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just these like very like interpersonal conflicts that like I think plays really well into like this story that he's trying to tell.
He's also doing a certain type of mood. Like if this is 2000s
also,
and that's your dad,
I don't know.
Go ahead.
I don't know, like I don't know part of it, but this is also like post Columbine. Now, you know what I mean? Like we're like the whole like disaffected white teenager with like the power of the sun in my hand, like that whole thing,
or even
you know?
And they turn into disaffected like older white men. So you have
who are still so bitter. That's the thing. I feel like early Clowes was very bitter and being funny about it, but like now it's just like he's so sad that bitterness exists. Almost like he could see it and he's just like
showcasing it for all it's worth. Everybody knows like I think like those are I feel like it's super fucking common in the US, like guys like get older and there's like the entitlement and like the sadness inside of them. And it shows like the consequences on the people around you. It's a power fantasy for just like entitled guys who have very bitter. It's just like a type of dad that not my dad, but like everybody knows like a older guy like this. And
this is like so many of like dudes in your hometown that like have been going to the same like bar every Sunday.
No, I think those guys are fine. Like I think like
there's a type of guy that's like that. You know what I mean? I mean like the guy that goes to the same place but then doesn't talk to anybody. And like he's just kind of a dick to everybody, but he's just been there for so long. And like that's why I love the character of Sonny in this, because it's a great foil to this thing where he's just like you're just a fucking sincere, nice guy who's also sad but doesn't let that make you bitter and like like obviously he's kind of a fucking idiot, but
Yeah.
but it's just like,
What do you think? Okay, that'll be the last thing I'll say. It's just a bit like fucking go to therapy, and what happens if you don't go to therapy? The little moment where he's like, well, don't you want to bring justice in the world? Isn't there someone you hate? And he like fantasizes about getting his Uncle Ben moment. It's like real people don't have Uncle Ben or like Bruce Wayne moments. Like you don't usually get traumatized in that way. People are out in these streets very fucking traumatized. People are very traumatized. You don't get it perfectly in a way that sets you up to fight justice. Like you just get it in a way that makes you sad and like lash out. And if you don't do something about it, you're gonna hurt people around you.
And a lot of the times, the people that do like get set up like that, you become like a firefighter.
Yeah.
And, like not a fucking like pieces. And because like that's part of it too. Is like Andy does nothing with any of this. Like he talks about how lucky and how blessed he is to like have these things, but like he doesn't treat it with any respect. And I feel like that's
like he has no responsibility with his power. It's crazy.
And that's one of those things, like a lot of like the superhero deconstructionist things do that. Like same with like fucking like Chronicle, like you get carried away with this whole like power trip thing or whatever. But yeah, Death-Ray, so good.
Yeah. That's the longest final thoughts we've ever had.
Yeah,
that sticks with you. It's a ton of fun.
Let's talk about his career afterwards, because so this is his last issue of 8-Ball, and then from here he starts doing like original like bound graphic novels. And I'm like using graphic novel just in the sense that it's like a full thing. It's not serialized in anything. It's published as a graphic novel. In 2005, right after this, Ice Haven, issue 22 of 8-Ball, becomes like a graphic novel. 2006, Art School Confidential, which he wrote, comes out. And I do want to talk a little bit about his film stuff, because like Ghost World had come out 2001, the movie. And that was based off of an 8-Ball story, or story that was like serialized in 8-Ball, right? And that was like his big breakout hit. So between then, like in the very early 2000s, he is working a lot with Terry Zwigoff, who did the R. Crumb documentary, which is really, really good if people haven't seen it. But like in my mind, like Clowes is part of this, like not just like comics, but the like indie movie scene too. You know what I mean? Because like I feel like Ghost World is kind of up there in like, oh, cool barista at the coffee shop, like is like, oh yeah, I love Ghost World. He
co-wrote it, I think. Right?
Yeah, he wrote the screenplay for that, and then he also wrote Art School Confidential, which was based off of another one of his stories that was in 8-Ball, where he was, and that's all about him like shitting on like the fine art institutions and talking about his time at Pratt, right? 2006 to 2010. In 2006, he has open heart surgery, and then so that kind of like puts him not like down, but he does a lot of like anthology work. He does a story in Book of Other People by Zadie Smith called Justin M. Damiano, which we will get to in a second. But he also does a bunch of New Yorker covers, some more anthology stuff. His Mr. Wonderful, which was serialized in like the Sunday New York Times magazine from 2007 to 2008, is coming out. 2010, his first non-8-Ball graphic novel comes out, and that's Wilson. And it's kind of not really semi-autobiographical, but it's about like a cartoonist guy, another like sad middle-aged dude. 2011, as I said before, Drawn and Quarterly publishes the Death-Ray as like a full hardcover, and then 2013, we gotta talk about this a little bit. So Justin M. Damiano was a short story in a collection edited by Zadie Smith, who shout out Zadie. I literally have one of them. But it's a book of short stories curated by a bunch of different people. Charles Burns, who I don't know how we haven't talked about him up until this point. Black Hole, yes. We're gonna do
the non-problematic side of the tattoo that you have.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, Charles Burns, who's one of his contemporaries, made Black Hole. He did the cover art, and I think he has a story in Book of Other People too.
Yeah, if you like this, like just fucking Black Hole, basically.
Very, very similar styles. Also, coming from the same
less
world of
Lynch
cartooning.
and more Lovecraft.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely more horror bent to a lot of his work. And so Clowes publishes this story called Justin M. Damiano, which is about like a movie critic, and it's just kind of like his thing on like critics
showing a
criticism,
cynical
art
person
criticism.
and how it sucks. Don't be
and
that
like
way.
how again, much like
Yeah.
this, like showing how sad on the
Yeah,
inside they
yeah,
actually are. That short story was very like bar for bar plagiarized by Shia LaBeouf in 2013 when he released howardcantor.com. So 2012 he shows it at Cannes Film Festival, and then he releases it online in 2013. And the movie, the short film started Jim Gaffigan's in it
as the instead of, I mean, they're both movie critics in both.
But instead of Justin M. Damiano, he's Howard
And
Cantor.
he's doing the same lines. He's doing the same dialogue.
Exactly. Like it. And Clowes said he said that he didn't know about this whole thing until somebody else sent him the link, and he was like, "What the fuck?"
His attitude is such a fun, like, perfect way to deal with that situation. He goes, I don't know why the fuck he would do that.
And like that's the thing too, is like we talked about like a lot of like, oh, like this is like comics as fine art, like comics as like literary works, like da 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 da. All of these people, very few, like it's like all of these comic book people know what they are in like not a bad way. You know what I mean? Like they're like, dude, it's comics, and also they have no pretense about what they're doing. They love the art form, and like they're just about it. And but Shia LaBeouf, he does this thing, and Clowes sends him like a cease and desist.
Because it was an uncredited line for line rereading his fucking comic book.
Exactly. And then so Shia LaBeouf goes and he issues an apology, which is a really funny
Twitter apology.
A Twitter apology, and he says copying isn't particularly creative work. Being inspired by someone else's is. And that, like, he talks about how he, like, kind of subconsciously maybe ripped him off, which I don't know how you can do. But then he also says, I fucked up. But also, with this, there's another article, there's like a Wired article where they talk about how he plagiarized that apology from like a Yahoo Answers. Which is so, like, God, this is before like
it's before ChatGPT. Like plagiarism is plagiarism. Fucking 2013.
Just so fucking funny. But yeah, that was a big blip on like the Daniel Clowes news. 2016, he comes out with Patience, intergenerational time travel. His most sci-fi one, right? The most like straight sci-fi.
He's got a taste. Whatever that sci-fi is, though, it's fucking awesome.
Yeah,
we were talking about before. Very lived-in universe. Very like the future will look like this, and then this guy is like the finish line is in sight in the first like 20-ish pages, and then he just fucking trips and bleeds out towards that finish line for like another 100 pages or something.
God. And then 2017, his book Wilson gets made into a movie starring Woody Harrelson. Throughout like 2016, 2018, he's like trying to get like film development for the Death-Ray. I think Jack Black's production company was attached at one point to the Death-Ray, and Patience were getting shopped around. In one, Clowes has talked a lot about like just like the film thing, and he says that like his stuff like Patience, he really wants to, because I think to him it like hits at a very like core like human thing, and he really wants to see like other people like adapt it, like non-American. Like he shouts out like South Korean directors and like stuff like that, and filmmakers and stuff like that.
A Korean guy could do a better Patience American guy.
That's what I mean. You know, like doing something like kind of weird, whack. Because like I think of like Bong Joon-ho. You know what I mean? Somebody like that. And I think
it'd be crazy. What if it was a Korean woman? What if they did it?
And then 2023, the masterpiece. Like this is his opus kind of, I would say, is Monica, which is like probably this was on like everybody's best of list in 2023. Published by Fantagraphics, of course, and it follows like the life of like a woman and there's he plays with the form so much, like all like each section of it is like almost a different style. Like we talked about before, he plays around with like the formatting and even like the way that the pages are printed. It's such a good book. I feel like I'd recommend that to anybody.
Yeah.
Like that's up there in terms of like non-comic book people. Like I would recommend something
So
like that.
fucking good. It's even more aged than this one, like even more retro.
Yeah. Because he references like war comics and stuff like that.
It's as grounded as this one, but with more of the Lynchian, like kind of like weird cults in the background. It doesn't go as hard as
like
Velvet Glove. Yeah. But the little stuff.
He still hasn't shaken his like anxiety about like hippies in
Yeah.
the 60s and 70s. 2023.
Dude,
well,
you
that
gotta
one.
be careful what you do the first time you smoke weed.
Monica,
Like,
he
change your
does
life.
say he's like working out a lot of stuff about his mom and stuff in that book.
Crazy.
So his work is like increasingly personal, but like listening to him in interviews, because like we could talk about the guy a little bit, and like like we said, like no pretense. He's just like a weird guy. It seems like he's like let go out of like a lot of the kind of like what is it? Yeah, more of like the more kind of contrarian, performative contrarianism. You know what I mean? That is very like hipstery, you know. And that was like very present in his like early work, and like he's more of just like he just. I like a lot of the people. I feel like the people that make the weirdest stuff are like the most like chill, normal guy.
Yeah.
You know.
He also he doesn't put out a ton, but everything that he puts out is very quality, and he very much wants to do it. He's not like a fucking like Wes Anderson. He just doesn't do things just to fucking do things.
I was like thinking like of like because like you could compare him to somebody like a Wes Anderson, like a auteur director, very clear. Like visual style, like also like nostalgic, in a way. But like I feel like Clowes, honestly, because he's not working in like movies, I feel like in film there's like a lot more of like an impetus to like keep releasing stuff. But comics take so long when it's just yourself. You know, there's not some big machine behind it. It's just kind of like you on your own time a lot of the times. And I think with like something like Fantagraphics, drawn in quarterly, also Clowes too. At this point, won every single comic book award possible. Harvey Awards from like based off of Harvey Kurtzman. And you got the Eisner Award, Inkpot Award from Comic-Con. He's what I think some of his like film work has been like nominated for stuff. He has like exhibitions in like different thing. He really broke out even in the 90s. Him and Charles Burns did art for OK Soda, which was like some like Gen X like knockoff thing. He was doing animation for I think it's Ramones' I Don't Want to Grow Up cover in the video. He did some animation stuff. He was making I think like Sub Pop Video Hour he did the art for. But he's like so tied in with like the 80s, 90s, early 2000s like alternative pop culture thing, and he's like one of those few dudes that's like broken out. Like he did, I remember his art's the poster for Happiness, Todd Solondz, you know that movie Happiness. And he did the art for Silicon Valley when that first came out. That show came. I remember driving around in LA and seeing the fucking poster. Like, oh shit, that's
my
like
boy.
Dan Clowes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he's like that guy. Like he really broke out, like not just from underground comics into mainstream comics, but like from comics in general into like pop culture that's not tied to any like IP, which is crazy.
There's not a lot of figureheads of like a moment in time who stay happy, keep putting out work, don't show up in the Epstein files.
Exactly.
Like, God bless them. Yeah.
I have let me check my notes to make sure I didn't leave anything out. Okay, so one thing I do want to say, the ending of the Death-Ray, Clowes said he rewrote it 75 times because he couldn't get it right. Yeah.
And then he did 3, so he chose each. Yeah,
exactly
3 through 5.
And then I do also want to shout out the way that he draws people very unidealized.
Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of like, you know, like war comics a little bit where it's just like ugly as grimy. You could see where he gets those like underground things. Also like so much underground comics. Like we go back to Arkham, everybody's ugly, everything's gross. Like that, it kind of like captures that a lot.
Everybody's teeth are just like a little, but that's true in real life. My
I
teeth
also
are fun.
like talking about Clowes as like a pop culture figurehead. I have Clowes as the MF Doom of underground comics.
Yeah.
This isn't a perfect analogy, but I will say so. Well respected in like kind of the second wave of like the underground scene of a thing, and like a mainstream breakout to where it's become like iconic of the scene. You know what I mean? Because like you think of like underground rap that has like really broken through like of like the classic stuff, and it's like somebody like MF Doom who is like become such like also now that he's dead, everybody knows more about him, which is sad, but like that whole thing of like, oh, now this guy is the example, the standard of this movement.
Everybody's chasing them.
Yeah, and they were around during like the same time. I wonder if Daniel
both like classic comics
around. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Ran into fucking MF Doom. But yeah.
Promise next time we'll choose someone that Ethan doesn't like. Didn't get anywhere near this love for Foreskin.
You want to talk shoutouts and recommendations?
Yes. My shout out and just my recommendation. I love this one, but yeah, maybe you do need a cure after this. I would recommend Moon Man! By Kyle Higgins and Scott Kid Cudi Mascudi.
Kid Cudi.
That's what I said.
Scott
That's what
Mascudi.
I said. I call him Kid. What if the Fantastic Four had been sent to space by Elon Musk and they came back with big ass NDAs? More fun than it sounds. Both this and the Death-Ray are technically superpower origin stories, but comparing these two as far as quality would be like comparing Pacific Rim and Manchester by the Sea because they're both set near the ocean. I like it as an antidote to the melancholia and tragic misanthropy of the Death-Ray. In Moon Man, our hero Ramon deals with the implications of his new gravity-distorting powers, as well as paying rent, making his boss happy, taking care of his family, and being a black man in the public eye. He navel-gazes as much as any other comic hero, but fortunately, unlike our boy Andy, he has the luxury of being a grown man with a developed moral compass and a family and friend that pushes him towards using his abilities to make the world a better place. And it's that responsibility to others and his connections to the world around him that give us some fantastic scenes of a man in a moon suit kicking the shit out of corporate goons with big orange and purple waves of gravity or whatever exploding in his wake. It's just a fun reminder when you're writing about superpowers. There's a whole world of possibilities when you do an origin story between Madam Web and Paradise Lost. Full disclosure, this is a celebrity-affiliated comic that may never get its conclusion. Shocker. But even so, go get out of your head for a sec with this grounded but still kick-ass power fantasy.
Yeah. I've been wanting to check out Moon Man. I've actually heard
it's fun.
Surprisingly good things for like a Kid Cudi attached comic book. But also my Black History Month pick is the OG Boondock strip from Aaron Magruder, like talking about like classic cartooning and stuff like that. I've been on, as I always am, like a classic Adult Swim kick recently, but I started going back and reading like the old like Magruder strips, and it's really, really, really good, really interesting. Like this, like diving into the Fantagraphics thing has made me want to go read strips a little bit more.
Yeah.
Older stuff. And then along with this, along the same lines, like obviously other Clowes stuff. We talked about like a Velvet Glove Cast in Iron a lot. I also, probably my favorite is the Poussey stuff. I also really, really like Monica, of course, and Patience. All his like graphic novel work is so good. Yeah, it's hard to like pinpoint one thing. Again, everybody else from Fantagraphics, right? Like Burns, Peter Baggs' Hate is really good, along the same lines as like early 8-Ball stuff. Very, very fun. But
I think for Clowes, if you read one, you get a little piece of everything, and then if you read every different one you read blows up something else that you got a taste of and something else. So there's a perfect one for you if you keep reading them all, but like it never gets boring. It's the focus always changes a little bit. They're all great.
Totally. And then, so like later this month for our second like Fantagraphics February episode, we're gonna get into more fine art influenced book. This one, I have no idea how we're gonna talk about it.
We may not do it. We'll see.
But yeah, we're talking about doing Cutting Season by Banu Pratap.
Yeah, more modern, contemporary.
Yeah, very, very modern, contemporary artist. Very surreal. But I'm interested to see if we can find any like through line with this.
Yeah.
But again, something like with Fantagraphics, they're always putting out something like there's something for everybody. Like they challenge, I think, what a lot of people's notions are about like comic books, and they do a lot really like legitimize comics as a medium. So shout out Fantagraphics.
And if you get into Fantagraphics, start saying, actually, I read graphic novels. That's the point.
Yeah, exactly. Don't be part of the problem.
Don't be part of the problem. Actually, we'll just do that. This has been another episode of Tales from the Gutters. Until next time, don't be a problem and go get some therapy.
What do you think of Andy? In parentheses again? All right.